began KYC or Know Your Constitution this week with an explainer on what writs and writ petitions are and the types of writs that the Constitution talks about. Simply put, a writ is an order by a high court to lower courts or the state to do something or to stop them from doing something. So a writ petition is an application before a court requesting it to issue a specific writ. The Constitution empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts to issue writs under Articles 32 and 226 respectively. These two provisions talk about 5 types of writs. The most common one being habeas corpus, which can be filed to find out if a person has been illegally detained. Through a writ of quo warranto, the court can ask someone holding a public office to show the authority under which he is holding that office. Through mandamus, the court directs a public authority to perform the legal duties which it has either not performed or has refused to perform. Through another writ called certiorari, the court can quash an order passed by a lower court or a tribunal which acts beyond what its powers allow or commits an error of law. The 5th writ called prohibition is issued to lower courts to stop them from going ahead with proceedings that they don't have jurisdiction on. Can the Parliament amend fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution? We answer the question next on KYC. Article 13 of the Constitution makes it clear that the government cannot make any law which violates fundamental rights. According to Clause 3 of Article 13, a law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, custom or usages within India. But is a constitutional amendment also law under Article 13? The answer to this question took several landmark judgments and a constitutional amendment. In the 1967 Golaknath case, the Supreme Court held that a constitutional amendment under Article 368 was also law under Article 13 and hence, if the amendment takes away any fundamental right, it can be declared void. But the Parliament then brought in the 24th Constitutional Amendment in 1971, which among other things added Clause 4 to Article 13. This clause overruled the Golaknath judgment, stating that Article 13 does not apply to constitutional amendments. 2 years later came the Keshwanand Bharti case, in which the Supreme Court upheld the 24th Amendment, but at the same time laid down the basic structure doctrine. So the position as of today is that while the Parliament does have the power to amend any article as per Article 368, no amendment should affect the basic structure of the Constitution. Since then, several features such as the freedoms under Article 19 have been declared to be a part of Constitution's basic structure and hence unamendable. Next on KYC was an explainer on Article 15.1 and gender discriminatory laws. Article 15.1 expressly bars discrimination on the grounds of sex. But for several years, courts allowed laws that differentiated between men and women, justifying them on the basis of what it called natural differences between the two genders. For example, a law barring women from being appointed to any post in men's jails was upheld by the Punjab and Haryana High Court, taking into account factors like patent physical disparities, body structure, and performance of maternal functions. But in 2007, in Anuj Garg versus Hotel Association of India, the Supreme Court changed this position. The challenged law in the case banned employment of women at places where people drank alcohol or consumed any other intoxicating drugs. The court rejected the government's contention that the law was for security of women. It then laid down a 2-step inquiry to decide whether a law is discriminatory towards women. First, the effect of the law should be looked into. Second, if the government provides a justification for the law, it shouldn't be allowed to rely on gender stereotypes. The principles made an appearance in the court's 2018 judgment on Section 377, with Justice Chandrachud noting that the final effect of Section 377 was discriminatory and was based on stereotypes about appropriate gender roles. But Article 15.3 does allow certain special provisions for women, and that's what we told you next on KYC. Initially, Article 15.3 was used by the courts to justify any and every special provision ostensibly made for the advantage of women. For instance, the 1954 Supreme Court judgment of Yusuf Abdul Aziz versus State of Bombay also upheld the adultery provision in IPC. The law allowed only the man to be held guilty of an extramarital relationship, that too only if the husband filed the case and had not consented to the relationship. But the court upheld the law in 1954, relying on the Parliament's power to make special provisions for women under Article 15.3. It took the court more than 6 decades to overrule Yusuf Abdul Aziz and strike down the adultery provision. In Joseph Shine versus Union of India, the Supreme Court, among other things, made it clear that Article 15.3 cannot be used as a justification when the entire rationale for the law is discriminatory against women. Of course, Article 15(3) has been used to justify framing of other beneficial laws for women, such as reservation of women in public employment and panchayats. This is Apurva Mandhani for The Print. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.